on earth out there who cares about that is going to take seriously that this government is actually intending to respond and make substantive changes. So this has a much more serious effect on the attitude of Canadians to the federal government right now than they may have even considered yet.
Statement by members. Déclaration de député.
The honourable member for La Pointe de l'Île. Mr. Speaker, I remember on February 5th, 6th, and 7th, 1968, a conference was held in Ottawa, a major conference on the Constitution. Two visions clashed there. Quebec Premier Daniel Johnson stated that everybody knew that French Canada was currently profoundly discontent with its place in Confederation. He said, equality or independence. The other vision was Pierre Elliott Trudeau's. In Trudeau's opinion, French Canadians were not a people, they were just one of several minorities, not a founding people, a minority. It wasn't the rights of the Quebec nation that needed to be respected, it was individual rights. Quebec, just another province. We, like Pierre Bourgault said, we don't want to be just another province, we want to be just another country.
Lakeshore.
Mr. Speaker, February 1st marked the beginning of Black History Month. I rise today to pay homage to the person who was instrumental in making this a reality, the Honourable Jean Augustine. In December 1995, the Parliament of Canada officially recognized February as Black History Month, thanks to Jean and her motion. Jean is the queen of many firsts. She was the first Black Canadian woman elected to Parliament and the first Black Canadian woman appointed to Cabinet. She served as Minister to Prime Ministers Chrétien and Martin and sat in the House of Commons as the MP for Etobicoke Lakeshore from 1993 until 2005. This trailblazer and educator was also an activist for women's rights, and she worked tirelessly on anti-poverty initiatives and violence against women's issues. This only begins to touch on the amazing things this Order of Canada recipient has given to the community in our country. I have the honour to call her mentor and friend. Jean, thank you for your service. You are a tough act to follow.
Bravo.
The honourable member for Cariboo, Prince George.
Mr. Speaker, it is with heavy heart that I rise today to speak on behalf of one of my constituents and indeed a great Canadian. On January 10th of this year, Warrant Officer Ian Mothis passed away. Ian was a proud soldier and went to work wearing his pride for his job on his sleeve for all to see. Ian served for over 20 years, first in the infantry, then as a medic in the Army, and then most recently as a physician's assistant. He did multiple tours in Afghanistan and Kosovo. He served our country proudly, defending his fellow man and training Afghan soldiers in medical practice. In life, Ian never sought attention or accolades. As a matter of fact, I was told that he avoided it at all costs. Today, I rise to pay tribute to him as a brother, as a son, as a dedicated soldier who put his comrades and victims of war above and before himself, whose respect for the military and passion for the medical field will have a lasting legacy amongst those who served with him. To his comrades, friends, and the entire Mothis family, our hearts are with you as you mourn and you celebrate Ian. Thank you.
The honourable member for Dartmouth, Cole Harbour.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to commend a pillar of our community in Dartmouth, Cole Harbour, Mr. John Burton. This is a man who would work all week for the Boys and Girls Club in Dartmouth East and then would get up at the crack of dawn on his weekend volunteering for one of our many community events. You may know John as the guy flipping and serving the eggs at the Kinsman Community Breakfast on the fourth Sunday of every month. You may know him as the man making the pancakes for breakfast with Santa. I know John Burton as the man who is always the first to offer assistance to anyone. We will miss him in Dartmouth Cole Harbour, as his work is now taking him to a regional position. Please join me in commending John Burton for being one of Dartmouth's best volunteers.
The honourable member for Abitibi-Temiskaming. Mr. Speaker, I am proud to hail from a young, dynamic region built on the strength of character and optimism of the men and women who chose, just 100 years ago, to settle in Abitibi West. That's why I wanted to let you know that Macamic and La Reine will both be celebrating their 100th birthday this summer. Macamic, my husband's hometown, means lame beaver in Algonquin or Lake of Wonders in Cree. Its residents will pay tribute to its founders during the massive celebrations to be held from July 14th to 22nd. My beloved hometown, La Reine, is the self-proclaimed capital of the end of the earth, so you're hereby invited to the end of the earth for the festivities from July 27th to 30th. I consider myself very fortunate to have inherited the strength of our pioneers and will be very proud to celebrate this heritage with my Abitibi West constituents this summer.
Honourable Member for Eglinton Lawrence.
Mr. Speaker, Alzheimer's and dementia are heartbreaking diseases that cause people to lose their independence, their dignity, and their very loved ones. It affects over 500,000 Canadians, and that number will go up. To support those affected, we need to invest in research and better treatments, which is why I was proud to welcome the Minister of Health to my riding in Eglinton Lawrence, where we announced $1.4 million in federal funding for the Canadian Centre for Aging and Brain Health Innovation at Baycrest Health Sciences. Le Baycrest est une institution
Baycrest is a world-famous institution for geriatric care and research, particularly for their contributions to the fields of cognitive neuroscience and aging.
Proud that our government is committed to ensuring that those who suffer from Alzheimer's and dementia get the best health care that we can afford. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Brantford Grant.
Mr. Speaker, there is a new forest in my city. For the last 5 years, Brantford businesses, community groups, schools, charities, and residents have worked together to turn 65 unusable acres of land in the middle of an active industrial park into a forest with over 50,000 trees. A healthy burgeoning forest with over 4 kilometers of walking trails, a thriving stream supporting aquatic life, abundant mammals, birds, and flourishing plant life. Prairie tall grass planted in elevated areas assists the sustaining of the endangered ecosystem. But most important is the hard work of so many Brantford residents to make this happen. To the Brantford Tree Coalition, founder Jim Burhalter, Chuck Beach, and your team, a huge shout out and thank you. I invite all Canadians to stop by and take a walk through Brantford's beautiful forest in the city.
The honourable member for Sudbury.
In 1972, the Sudbury Superstack was the largest chimney in the world. Today, the mining company Valley has reduced emissions so much that it no longer needs a Superstack. Last month, Valley announced that it was ending the use of a Superstack in 2020. This is a story of progress, of doing things better, smarter, safer, and more efficiently. But Sudbury's real story of regreening and regeneration, of rebirth, began because the Superstack was built 45 years ago. Mining is in the Sudbury's bloodstream. The Superstack was a mighty symbol of our industry. Monsieur le Président, Sudbury is an excellent example.
Mr. Speaker, Sudbury is an example of economic growth and environmental protection.
Innovative green mining clusters in the world. Is Sudbury a shining example? Yes. An example that a strong economy and a healthy environment go hand in hand. 45 years ago, bigger was better. Today, smarter is better.
The honourable member for Scarborough-Guildwood.
Mr. Speaker, a few months ago, Vladimir Kara-Murza came into my office to promote Canada's adoption of the Magnitsky Act. He walked with a cane. His face and body showed the effects of being poisoned. He was originally poisoned following his appearance before the U.S. Congress, where he spoke of expanding human rights sanctions in Russia. We talked about the risk he was taking by appearing before a House of Commons committee. He knew he was at risk. I have seldom met a more intelligent and brave advocate for a just cause than Vladimir Kara-Murza. It's therefore very disturbing to learn that he's in hospital, in a coma, a victim of a second poisoning. We know that the Putin regime will deny responsibility and promise a full investigation, just like the Putin regime denied full responsibility for Boris Nemtsov's murder, just like they did for Alex Litvinenko, just like they did for the former president of Ukraine. Vladimir, you're a brave man. Godspeed.
The honourable member for Bruce Grey, Owen Sound.
Mr. Speaker, my riding of Bruce Grey Owen Sound has a long tradition of hockey excellence, and this year is no exception. First, the OHL's Owen Sound attack just set a franchise record 15-game win streak that spanned almost 2 straight months. This amazing streak has propelled the team to 9th place on the Canadian Hockey League rankings. While this streak recently came to an end, I'm pleased to report to this House that the Attack are now on a new 2-game win streak. Furthermore, my hometown of Wharton has put forward a bid to become Canada's next Kraft Hockeyville. In a few weeks, Kraft will announce the top 10 Hockeyville nominees. Citizens of Wharton and area are working hard to win this honour and the $100,000 grand prize that comes with it for major repairs and upgrades to the Wharton and District Community Centre and Arena. I encourage all Canadians and you, Mr. Speaker, to learn more at facebook.com/WhartonKHV. On behalf of this House, I'd like to wish the town of Wharton best of luck in their pursuit to become Kraft Hockeyville.
I've had a one-game scoring streak on occasion. The honourable member for Laurentides-Laval.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to salute and congratulate the new Alpine Skiing Super G World Champion. Eric Gay is continuing to leave his mark on history. Yesterday, he became the first Canadian skier to win this prize in St. Moritz. He's from the Laurentians. He was a classmate of mine a few times, and he has once again demonstrated his ambition and leadership in the world. The Upper Laurentians region is recognized as the cradle of skiing in Canada. This recognition was shown in women's alpine skiing. My grandmother was the first star and the first women's alpine ski coach in Mont-Tremblant in 1940. This recognition continues to be shown today. You can see what a special person Eric is through his victory message on Facebook.
Ski technicians, family and friends, this is our victory. Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, Eric Gay is our champion and our role model. Thank you.
The honourable member for Quebec-Mactaquac.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to highlight the good work of an energetic, inspired, and motivated group in my riding. Their desire to make positive local change is impressive and their optimism is infectious. Ils se prononcent sur des dossiers.
They dealt with issues like seniors, education, and jobs, and they are initiating change through committed volunteer efforts as a result of genuine concern for their community. Thank yous go out to
Ashi, Pascal Gagnon, Jenna Green, Vanessa Nickel, Louise Pickard, Letitia Porter, Hannah Saunders, Devin Shriver, and Destiny Spencer. They are the founding members of the Quebec-Mactaquac Youth Constituency Council, and they are setting an example. Our future leaders. Investing in our youth, as our government has done, means investing in our future. I'm connecting with the youth in my riding, and from where I'm standing, our future's so bright, we're going to need shades.
The honourable member for Niagara Falls.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I pay tribute to a hard-working and dedicated individual who has served this chamber with distinction for over 32 years and is preparing for a well-deserved retirement. Lynn Legault has acted as a supervisor of the Parliamentary Page Program for over 3 decades, where she has witnessed Canada's history in the making. Over the years, she has facilitated the operations of this House of Commons and ensured that we as MPs are able to do our job and represent Canadians. She has always been an inspiration to those who she's worked alongside and a role model and mentor to our pages. Her constant smile, compassion, and positive outlook on life has had a significant effect on the lives of all those she has supervised through her exceptional career. On behalf of all my colleagues, and from me personally, I would like to thank Lynn for her dedication and loyalty for her over 32 years of continuous hard work. We wish Lynn all the best as she enters this new chapter of her life. Thank you for your service to our country, Lynn.
Honourable member for Charleswood, St. James, Assiniboia, Headingley.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to congratulate a constituent in her introduction to the Manitoba Sport Hall of Fame. From 2000 to 2004, Rihanna Lair-Blacher represented Canada at many international swimming competitions, including the 2000 Olympics in Sydney and the 2004 Olympics in Athens. Throughout her competitive career, she won 13 national titles, 19 international medals, and set 4 national senior records specializing in 50-meter and 100-meter breaststroke and 4x50-meter medley relays. In 2004, she was named Canadian Female Swimmer of the Year. Since retiring from active competition, Ms. Lair-Blacher has stayed active in her sport and is assistant head coach of the St. James Seals Swim Club in Winnipeg. I wish to commend her for her commitment to sport and her community, and for all she has done to represent Canada on the world stage. I ask all members to join me in congratulating her on this significant and well-deserved honor.
Bravo.
The honourable member for Churchill, Kiwatanook, Aski.
Mr. Speaker, just this week, young people were told again by this government that they're to blame for their insecure job situation. Canadians of all ages want good jobs that are disappearing. Inequality is increasing, and this is directly linked to the rise of precarious work. Les jeunes au Canada sont laissés pour...
Young people in Canada are being left out.
Successive liberal and conservative governments that push the politics of privatization, outsourcing, and austerity. The result of trade agreements that have sold us out, of foreign takeovers, and of growing corporate concentration. Aujourd'hui, les jeunes se mobilisent.
Today, young people are mobilizing. They want more to be done.
Matter, Indigenous struggles, climate action, and 15 for fairness. They are challenging a system that is holding us back. Together, we must join in solidarity and build a movement for social, environmental, and economic justice for young and all Canadians.
Yay. The honourable member for Red Deer, Mountain View.
Mr. Speaker, last night I joined my Conservative colleagues for an emergency debate regarding the Alberta jobs crisis. We'd hoped that the Liberals would address this issue, but instead they spent their time congratulating themselves for things that were never delivered. So let me bring the focus back on Albertans. Over 200,000 Albertans have lost their jobs, and it is crippling the entire Alberta economy. Hundreds of businesses in my riding have permanently closed their doors, and many families have lost their livelihoods, their homes, and their savings. Albertans want their jobs back. They want to work, and the Liberals need to stop working against them. For the past year, our pleas have fallen on deaf ears, and from the way the Liberals acted last night, it looks like nothing has changed. Mr. Speaker, the Alberta jobs crisis is not an alternative fact. It is a harsh reality. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Mississauga-Streetsville.
Mr. Speaker, as we are currently experiencing some of the coldest temperatures of the year, it is important to think about those who do not have a place to stay and are spending the night out in the cold. On February 25th, I will once again be taking part in the annual Coldest Night of the Year walk, an annual walk to raise money for the hungry, homeless, and hurting. Since its inception in 2011, Coldest Night of the Year has raised over $12 million for its cause and has made a difference all across Canada. Coldest Night of the Year walks are taking place in communities all across the country, and I call on all my members in this House to take part in the Coldest Night of the Year walk in their community. And if you can't participate yourself, please feel free to donate to my team, Guggen Go-Getters at CanadaColdestNightOfTheYear.org. Thank you.
Oral questions, questions orales. Honorable député de...
The honourable member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, this week several ministers went to Washington. Next week it'll be the Prime Minister's turn. What Canadians want are concrete results, Mr. Speaker, not just tweets and pictures or words. They want jobs. What is the government's strategy? What is the Prime Minister's strategy to maintain links with the Americans and to preserve jobs here in Canada? The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs. Thank you for the question. Mr. Speaker, our strategy is clear and effective. This week, as my colleague noted, I traveled to Washington. The Minister of Defense was there at that time. My colleague, the Minister of Finance, is in Washington. We explained the importance of Canada, of our economy for workers, the Prime Minister will travel there as well. It's our job to do so, and we're doing it proudly.
Mr. Speaker, this finance minister has completely lost control on the government spending. The deficit will be 2 or 3 times more than they promised, and he will need to raise taxes in order to balance his budget. So will the finance minister confirm today that he will not attack senior Canadians by removing pension income splitting to balance his budget?
Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague for his question. Mr. Speaker, I'm afraid he has a short memory. The first thing that this government did was to reduce taxes for 9 million Canadians, Mr. Speaker. And then we went on with the Canada Child Benefit, helping 9 families out of 10. Then we introduced an infrastructure program, Mr. Speaker, something which is historic, $128 billion in this country. But you know the sad thing that people at home recognize is that the Conservatives have voted against every step of the way to help the middle class in this country.
The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, a person has to be really liberal to try to convince him that the universal child care benefit, which covered 100% of the people, to say something that 80% is better. Now, the Minister of Finance has lost control over expenditures, and our children and grandchildren are going to have to pay for that. Can he not promise today that he won't be cutting additional assistance to families who are so much in need? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member for Lac-Saint-Jean, my colleague. What I can promise him today is that throughout our mandate, we're going to be working for Canadian families and for the middle class. That's what we did in the budget. In Budget 2016 is what we did in the fall update. He can rest assured that at every step along the way, each day, people on this side of the House are working to improve the lot of Canadians.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's words are in question these days because of his long list of broken promises. He just can't be trusted. So we were skeptical when the Prime Minister said that he wouldn't tax Canadians' health and dental benefits. We put the question to the House. We asked him to say no to this regressive tax. In true form, the Liberals were completely inconsistent, and Canadians are now worried this tax is on the table. Why do the Liberals keep breaking their word, and how can Canadians know they're not going to have to be paying more for health and dental benefits?
The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague for allowing me to repeat that. The first thing that we did, Mr. Speaker, the promise we made was to reduce tax for Canadians. And what Canadians remember across this nation, Mr. Speaker, is that the Conservatives have voted against that, Mr. Speaker. They have voted against helping middle-class families. They have voted against helping Canadian workers. And you know what, Mr. Speaker, we'll continue to do just that, working for middle-class Canadians.
Opposition House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals can say what they want, but the records show that the Liberals voted on Tuesday against and for taxing Canadians' health and dental benefits. That means that Canadians may be paying an extra $1,000 for their health and dental benefits. So my question is, they didn't talk about this. They didn't talk about this in their platform. They voted against our motion, Mr. Speaker, on Tuesday. What other tax increases are they trying to keep secret? Kind of be wishy-washy, play both sides of the ledger. Where else are they going to be taxing Canadians?
Order, order. We need to hear the questions. We need to hear the answers as well. Order, please. The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians know who to trust when it comes to taxes, because the first thing we did, Mr. Speaker, was reduce tax for middle-class Canadians, and that Canadians know across the nation. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister was very clear to answering the question from the member. She knows that well. What we're doing is to review all the tax measures in this country. This is the right thing to do. That's what a responsible government is doing. But one thing Canadians will always remember is that this government, the first thing we did was to reduce taxes for the middle class.
Honourable Member for Vancouver East.
Say, quote, only countries that respect human rights and offer a high degree of protection to asylum seekers may be designated as safe third countries, end quote. 22 refugees risked life and limb crossing from the U.S. into Canada. No one risks their family's safety unless they have no choice. These refugees are blocked from the Canadian system while they're in the U.S. because of Third Safe Country Agreement. Thus, the ministers still believe the U.S. is offering a high degree of protection to asylum seekers. Yes or no?
Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Our government has been recognized as being a global leader in welcoming refugees and asylum seekers. We are proud of that tradition. The U.S. Safe Third Country Agreement with the United States and Canada provides an orderly system of managing asylum claims. The honourable member knows or should know that the U.S. executive order has no bearing on the U.S. Safe Third Country Agreement with Canada. We are proud of our tradition of offering protection. Every eligible asylum seeker has access to a fair hearing in front of the Immigration and Refugee Board, and each case is assessed based on its merits.
The honourable member for Laurier-Sainte-Marie. Mr. Speaker, last weekend, 22 refugees walked across the border in very cold weather in search of safety in Canada. But under the Safe Third Country Agreement, a refugee who transits through the United States cannot then come to Canada. Yesterday, the Prime Minister said that we would welcome all vulnerable people. Well, those refugees, Mr. Speaker, are vulnerable people. So, will the government suspend the agreement on the safe third countries in order to allow them in?
Immigration. Mr. Speaker, this year alone we will welcome 40,000 refugees in Canada. That includes 25,000 resettled refugees, which is double the number that the previous government welcomed. It also includes 16,000 privately sponsored refugees, which is triple the number that the previous government had. So we will take no lessons from both parties on our record. We're proud of our record and will continue to support Canadians in their extraordinary generosity to those who are seeking protection. Thank you.
The honourable member for Laurier-Sainte-Marie. Well, that wasn't really the question. But we know that a Canadian family was stopped at the U.S. border. Canadian citizens, residents of Brossard, and they were stopped there, and it turns out that they're Muslims. When the Prime Minister was questioned about this, he said that he's working with the Americans to see how we can improve the situation for Canadians. I don't think that's sufficient in the current circumstances. When we see things like this happening, can the Minister confirm that that was an isolated case, or are there other cases of Canadian citizens being turned back at the border?
Mr. Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, proper and appropriate treatment for all people from Canada seeking to enter the United States or any other country is a priority for this government. Canadian citizenship and travel documents need to be respected. In this particular case, the Member of Parliament for Brossard-Saint-Lambert, her office, has been in touch with the Canadian citizen that has made this complaint. When we get full details of the circumstances, I will both encourage her to apply for the redress process.
The honourable member for Vancouver East.
Fedwa Alaoui is a Muslim Canadian born in Morocco. She has a Canadian passport, but that was not enough. Border guards berated about how often she attends her mosque, what her views are about President Trump, and if she knew anyone killed in the Quebec City mosque attack. She was humiliated, and 4 hours later, she drove home. This kind of treatment goes directly against what the government has promised. What is the Liberal government doing about this situation, and what can they confirm that there are no other Canadians that have faced this type of situation?
Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I think the microphone was cut off before the honourable member could hear the end of my previous question, my previous answer. Number one, we encourage anyone facing the situation to appeal through the normal processes. But number two, draw the circumstances and the facts with complete details to my attention, and I will take those cases up with the U.S. administration.
The honourable member for Selkirk, Interlake, Eastman.
Mr. Speaker, when I asked the Defence Minister in December to fix the inequity of awarding danger pay and benefits to some, but not all of our troops fighting ISIS, the Minister said he would. But it never crossed my mind the Liberals would do that by taking away everyone's danger pay. Canadian troops stationed in Kuwait are now having their paychecks reduced by over $1,500 a month by the Liberals. So why is the Prime Minister betraying our brave men and women who are in the fight against ISIS?
Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, as I stated to the member opposite during that meeting, we're committed to looking after our men and women and including their compensation. Our government had concerns regarding the current situation with that there was not fully fair and equitable. That's why I've asked the Chief of Defence Staff to work with the other relevant agencies to review the compensation rules and propose changes, including finding ways to prevent the negative impacts on our deployed personnel. Thank you.
For Selkirk, Interlake.
That doesn't fix this current situation, Mr. Speaker. The Defence Minister is a proud veteran, and he knows better than anyone how important danger pay is, not just for our brave men and women in uniform, but for their families back at home as well. Now, we all knew the Liberals would cut defence spending, but we didn't ever imagine they would literally do it on the backs of our soldiers and military families. Now, will the Defence Minister quit taking his marching orders from the Prime Minister, fight for our troops, and reinstate all, and I mean all, of the danger pay and benefits for all of our troops that are in the fight against ISIS?
Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, as I stated, we will always be looking after our troops. That's why during my first visit into Kuwait, when I was appointed as Defence Minister, where I realized some of these inequities, and that's why I've asked the Chief of Defence Staff to look at these things. It is an interdepartment team that does it. Some rules that were actually put into place in 2014. So these things do take time, but however, we'll be working through it to making sure that we work with the relevant agencies, and all the recommendations will be made so that we can move forward on this. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. The Liberals cut by over $1,500 the salary of our troops deployed in Kuwait. It's despicable to see the minister cutting their salary once they're deployed. Soldiers expect their minister to protect them, but that's clearly not the case. Last December, we made the minister aware of this, but unfortunately, the minister was asleep at the switch. As a former unit commander, I'm ashamed of my country, ashamed of the way that the Liberals are treating our troops. Will they stop to pinching pennies at the expense of our soldiers? Will the minister resolve this problem? I would remind the minister that he must go through the chair. The Honourable Minister.
What was despicable was actually sending our troops in the first place without all these compensations. When I first visited our troops is when I discovered this, and I had the conversation with members opposite on this, hence the reason why it was brought to my attention, and we have to work through a process to be able to resolve some of these issues. Many different departments are involved, and we are working through it, and we will get through this. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, this had to hit the media yesterday to hear about it. My colleague, the member for Selkirk Eastman, and I have been talking to the minister, questioning the minister in a very honourable way. Nothing has been done. Now the media is on it, and something's been done. Can the minister resolve this issue immediately? Yes or no?
National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, as I stated, we're working through the rules that were put in by the previous government in 2014. We are now having to, have asked the Chief of Defence Staff to work with the relevant agencies to look at the various processes that they have to go through and making sure that we have an equitable compensation for our troops. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Barrie Innisfil.
Mr. Speaker, millennials experience Liberals backtracking on electoral reform, and our veterans are suffering after Liberals promised them everything to get elected. Today we hear another story of a veteran losing their home because they didn't receive benefits owed to them after being medically released from the Canadian Forces. The D&D Ombudsman offered a simple solution that the Veterans Affairs Committee agreed to. Make sure our soldiers have everything in place before they go home. Mr. Speaker, enough with the platitudes, enough with the talking points. When will the minister stop paying lip service to our veterans and do his job?
The Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
The well-being of veterans and their families is at the heart of all we do at Veterans Affairs. Delivering timely benefits is an area we can and must do better. In 2015-16, we saw a 19% increase in the number of disability benefit claims. This is a good thing. It means more people are coming forward to get the help they need when they need it. In order to address this, we're streamlining disability benefits process, hiring more staff, and simplifying the decision-making process. We know we're doing better for veterans, and we'll continue to work hard to provide them with the services they need.
Honourable Member for Yorkton Melville.
Mr. Speaker, David Bona, a veteran, waited 8 hours out in the freezing cold for the Prime Minister's town hall in Saskatoon. Once inside, a student, recognizing that he was a veteran by his uniform, in respect offered him his seat. But Dave was approached by a Liberal organizer and told he couldn't take it, he had to go to the back. What? Clearly visible to the PM, Dave stood at attention for 20 minutes, waiting to ask a question, but was ignored. Why did the Prime Minister ignore David Bona?
Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, our government is committed to veterans and their families, full stop. And after the previous 10 years of the former government, frankly, ignoring veterans' concerns, by the fact that they closed offices, by they reduced 1/3 of the frontline staff, it's actually shocking that we're actually getting this question. Our government is working hard to ensure that veterans receive the care, compassion, and respect they deserve. Budget 2016 saw us put $5.6 billion and more resources to veterans and their families. We're going to continue to deliver on their behalf.
Député de Jean. The Honourable Member for Jonquière. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals and the Prime Minister himself made an election promise to restore home mail delivery service for everyone who lost it. The Minister received the report that examined Canada Post last December, but we still haven't had any news with respect to her decision. Like the promise for election reform, should we expect to see this report ripped up? Will we be seeing another broken promise?
And the Minister of Public Services and Procurement.
Mr. Speaker, I thank my colleague for her question. And contrary to her comments, we are following through on a promise we made during the election to stop installing community mailboxes.
Order. Order. We need to hear the answer. The Honourable Minister of Public Services and Procurement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are continuing with the promise we made, and that was to stop the installation of roadside mailboxes, to consult with Canadians from coast to coast to coast, to get their views on the type of Canada Post we need to have, one that's sustainable and delivers for Canadians. And we're doing just that, Mr. Speaker. We now have the 2 reports needed that we now...
The Honourable Member for Skeena-Bulkley Valley.
I think the Liberals have actually lost the ability to tell when they're breaking promises anymore. It's worrisome. Today in the House of Commons, we're debating an NDP motion to simply acknowledge what everybody already knows, that when it came to electoral reform, the Liberal promise to fix our outdated and unfair voting system has been broken, and that they should apologize. Some Liberals have actually already started apologizing to their constituents, so this should be easy. But during the debate today, Liberal MP from Toronto said he was actually proud of their decision to betray their promise to Canadians. So a question to the Minister, and this is a yes or no, is she proud of her Prime Minister's decision to betray his promise to Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Democratic Institutions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I had explained to my honourable colleague during the debate this morning, we listen to Canadians. And listening means listening to all points of view. I know that's something that he has trouble understanding, but that's what we do. And I am looking forward to working on democratic institutions to strengthen, protect, and improve our system. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I want to remind the Honourable Minister that members here are very good at understanding things, and it doesn't help the decorum in the House. It helps to create disorder, in fact, when we suggest otherwise. So I'd urge members not to do things like that. The Honourable Member for Haldeman Norfolk.
Well, Mr. Speaker, when it comes to Bombardier, the Liberals need to understand that these are taxpayer dollars that they're spending, not their own. If they're going to give big handouts to one favoured company, they need to have a plan to get the money back. Can the Liberals explain what the repayment plan is for Bombardier and how they're going to make sure that the hard-earned money of Canadian taxpayers will be returned?
Good question. The Honourable Minister of Economic Development.
Mr. Speaker, again, I find it a bit ironic that the member opposite was at the cabinet table when they cut a check for $350 million for Bombardier in 2008. But let me talk about now and the commitment that we have made. We have made a commitment to the workers. We have made a commitment to their families. We are investing in the aerospace sector because this is an important sector that generates 211,000 jobs, that contributes $28 billion to our economy, Mr. Speaker. We're proud of our record. We're proud of the fact that we're making investments, growing the economy, and creating good quality jobs for the middle class, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Haldimand Norfolk.
Mr. Speaker, when the previous government helped out Bombardier in 2008, it was in the initial stages of the C-Series development when they were doing research and development. Now, since then, Bombardier has secured many large orders, and their balance sheet is much, much stronger. Now, Mr. Speaker, there are many smaller businesses in the aerospace sector, companies that have truly innovative products that could really have used that money to help get those products to market. So how is this government going to explain to them that one company who said they didn't even need the money was more deserving than they are?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as I said, this investment is going to help communities, is going to help workers. There are 800 suppliers that are associated with Bombardier that will benefit from this investment because they're part of the aerospace cluster. They're part of the ecosystem when it comes to that very important cluster and sector, Mr. Speaker. That's what we're doing. We're investing not only in the large company, we're investing in all the supplier base from coast to coast to coast. This will help, again, small businesses, and more importantly, this will help Canadians and will strengthen the middle class by making sure that we focus on good quality jobs.
Honourable Member for Carleton.
Here's what we know about the effect of carbon taxes and the gap between rich and poor. First, we know that those with the least will suffer the most because the poor spend a third more of family income on the items that get taxed. Two, prior experience shows that money generated from the tax always go to those wealthy enough to lobby for it, like the super rich who will now get a taxpayer rebate to buy $150,000 Tesla cars. And three, we know the government is censoring a Finance Canada memo showing the impact of the carbon tax and the gap between rich and poor. Will they release that memo today?
Honourable Minister of Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What we do know about carbon pricing, it's the most efficient way to reduce emissions and to innovate and create good jobs. It always surprises me that the member opposite, who professes to believe in free market principles, just can't understand why carbon pricing makes sense. But I already talked about Patrick Brown, the leader of the Conservative government, but maybe I'll talk about Preston Manning. Conservatives profess to believe in markets, so why don't Conservatives major on how to harness markets to the environmental conversation and make that their signature contribution? I encourage the member opposite to work with me to reduce emissions.
The Honourable Member for Carleton.
Well, that minister and others claim these taxes are revenue neutral. They claim that, for example, that a single woman with an income of $45,000 will get back in rebates and other tax relief all the taxes she pays on heat, gas, and groceries. But the only way to test that is to know what carbon tax amounts she will pay in the first place. Data contained in a blacked-out Finance Canada memo will tell us exactly that. If these new taxes are really revenue neutral for the poor, why won't the government prove it and release the data now?
Honourable Minister of Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thought I'd also point out that there are other Conservatives across the country that believe in pricing pollution. Manitoba's Conservative government, in their speech from the throne, said that their climate action plan will include carbon pricing that fosters emission reductions, retains investment capital, and stimulates new innovation in clean energy, businesses, and jobs. Once again, I encourage the members opposite to work with our government so that we can grow a clean economy and ensure a better future for our kids.
Honourable Member for Hamilton Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals' Bill C-27 is an attack on stable, secure workplace pensions that would let employers back away from commitments to workers and pensioners. This week, workers came to Ottawa to raise their voices about this dangerous bill. Now, according to reports, the Liberal government has said it will put a hold on Bill C-27 because of widespread opposition. Will this government commit to withdraw this anti-worker bill and refrain from any further attempts to attack workers' pensions.
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank my colleague for his question. Helping Canadians achieve a safe and dignified retirement is key to our plan to help the middle class and those working hard to join it. Bill C-27 aims to broaden the scope of retirement-saving opportunities available to Canadians. Under our legislation, Mr. Speaker, individuals have a choice. Those who do not consent, they maintain their benefits. Mr. Speaker, we are willing to take the necessary time to give all parties the opportunity to share suggestions within the process. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for London Fanshawe.
Mr. Speaker, today we have learned that a veteran has been evicted from her home because of delays in receiving her pension. This is unconscionable. Compound that by the fact this veteran had 6 tours of duty, 2 bouts of cancer, and is a single mom. It should make the Minister and this Prime Minister hang their heads in shame. Mr. Speaker, enough is enough. Will the Minister take action today to ensure that veterans have their pensions in place the day that they are released from the service?
Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Well, thank you very much for the question, and that's why the Minister of National Defence and I are working very hard on closing the seam to ensure we professionalize the release process and ensure that our men and women in uniform, when they're leaving the service, get the help they need where and when they need it. But I can also say that we're working hard to deliver timely benefit decisions, and it's an area where we can and do better. In 2015-16, we did see a 19% increase in the number of disability claims. We're working through those, putting processes in place to speed up delivery of our services. We can and will do better on behalf of veterans.
Honourable Député de Rivière-des-Maudits.
Honourable Member for Rivière-des-Maudits. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Bell Helicopter Textron is an important employer to my riding, as many of my constituents work at the company or are associated with suppliers to the company. I was pleased to hear last year that Bell Helicopter renewed its commitment to staying and building in Quebec and in Canada. Can the Minister of Innovation, Science and Economic Development please provide a progress update to the House on this important project?
The Honourable Minister of Economic Development.
Thank you to the member for Rivière-des-Maudits for her question. Mr. Speaker, I was very proud to be in Mirabel this morning to see the new assembly line for the Textron helicopters. This is another example of our government working in close cooperation with provincial governments to create an environment that is conducive for business in Canada. This cooperation with the Quebec government has allowed for the maintenance of 900 jobs and the creation of over 100 new jobs. Our government is committed to growing our economy.
For Central Okanagan, Smiltamine Nicola.
Mr. Speaker, homeowners refinance their homes for many reasons, investing in a small business, home renovation project, to get through an extended strike or lockout or even a divorce. But at the Finance Committee, we learned that the Liberals have cancelled CMHC insurance for those who want to refinance their homes. These changes have resulted in Canadians paying higher interest rates when refinancing a mortgage. These changes were imposed, Mr. Speaker, with zero consultation. Why are the Liberals hurting struggling Canadian homeowners by hiking their interest rates?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank my colleague for his question. For many families, their homes are the most important investments that they will make in their lives. That is why we have taken action to contain risk in the housing market and support long-term affordability. For example, Mr. Speaker, the government has implemented a mortgage rate stress test to ensure that Canadians are taking on mortgages that they can afford, even if the rates go up. The government has made this the government also announced income tax measures to improve the fairness and integrity of the tax system. We will continue to monitor the market to protect middle-class Canadians, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. I don't think we sat on the same committee because the experts told us that in past consultations this would have no effect on Toronto or Vancouver, whereas these new rules were supposed to make a difference, and yet it's having a negative impact across the country for first-time home buyers. Yesterday, the Federation of Quebec of Real Estate Boards said that there will be 10,000 fewer houses for the middle class. That's $220 million less in the Canadian economy. So why is the government continuing to attack families and the middle class in Quebec and across Canada with its bad measures on the real estate market? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For many families, buying a home is the most important investment they will make in their lives. That is why we have taken measures to reduce risk on the housing market and to improve sustainability in the long term. For example, the government put in place a mortgage stress test to guarantee that Canadians obtain a mortgage loans that they will be able to repay. The government has also announced tax measures to improve the strength and integrity of the real estate market.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week, the Parliamentary Budget Officer identified a shortfall of $9 billion for infrastructure. We know that 96% of the announced projects are not under construction. We know that Alberta was promised $700 million in fast-tracked infrastructure funds over a year ago. And no surprise, Alberta is still waiting for over 90% of those funds. When are the Liberals going to start taking the job crisis in Alberta seriously and fast-track the promised infrastructure funds?
Minister of Infrastructure and Communities.
Mr. Speaker, in 2012, the previous government approved 4 projects for Alberta, 2 projects in 2013 for Alberta, and 5 projects in 2014 for Alberta. Now compare that, Mr. Speaker, to 127 projects approved by our government for Alberta. When it comes to building infrastructure, growing the economy, creating jobs for Albertans, we take no lesson from the old, tired, conservative Harper government. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton-Griswold.
Mr. Speaker, the infrastructure minister likes to boast about his project spending, but on this side of the House, we know the devil is in the details. The fact is, things are just not being built. According to the Government of Canada's own website, which is updated weekly, only one of 127 projects announced in Alberta by the Liberals has started construction. Nothing has started in Edmonton. Another Liberal promise made, another Liberal promise broken. Why have these projects not started?
Hear, hear. Minister of Infrastructure and Communities.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the 127 projects that I talked about leverage $4.2 billion investment in partnership with provinces and municipalities. As far as Edmonton is concerned, Mr. Speaker, we approved 47 projects under the new plan introduced in Budget 2016. Those projects are helping us build better transit system, reducing commute time for Edmontonians, as well as creating jobs in local communities. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Trois-Rivières. Mr. Speaker, according to a recent report by the C.D. Howe Institute, the federal government could pocket up to $16 billion if it decided to sell our airports to private investors. The airports of Calgary, Ottawa, and Vancouver, as well as Air Canada, are denouncing this privatization plan because the passengers and workers would be the first to pay the price. If the government really cares about the interests of Canadians, it should forget about the privatization bank and instead of trying to fund its cronies. The Honourable Minister of Transport. Mr. Speaker, when we talk about airports, our first priority is service to passengers, whether it be in terms of cost, options, competitiveness, wait times for going through security. When we talk about a passenger's bill of rights, when we explore different options, you can be sure that our very first priority is service to passengers, and that is what it will always be. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, they're exploring options, so I hope, but they should be closing the door to privatization because it's not just airports that are on the table. They also promised a public investment in infrastructure, but the Parliamentary Budget Officer said that most of the funding promised hasn't arrived. Instead of keeping its promise, the government would rather create a privatization bank for our infrastructure. Can the minister reassure Canadians that he will not liquidate our public infrastructure?
Mr. Speaker, out of the $180 billion that we will invest over 12 years in infrastructure, only 8% will be delivered through the infrastructure bank. Rest of the money is available to municipalities and provinces and territories through traditional means of national programs as well as bilateral agreements that we will sign with each province and territories. I can assure the member that every community will be served in an equitable way to grow our economy and create jobs for the middle class and those who are working so hard to be part of it. Thank you, Mr.
Honourable Member for Oshawa.
Mr. Speaker, as the Liberals push to legalize marijuana by 2018, many Canadians are concerned about the consequences of people driving while high. There are screening devices that detect the presence of drugs in the body, but they are not authorized for use under the criminal code. Mr. Speaker, will the Liberals authorize the use of these devices before they introduce legislation, finally making the health and safety of Canadians a priority?
For Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, as the honourable gentleman may know, over the course of the last several weeks, the RCMP and other police forces across the country, in cooperation with the Government of Canada, have been testing a number of scientific devices for roadside testing of drug-impaired driving to determine their efficacy and under Canadian weather conditions, including in the middle of the winter. We will make sure that we have both the legal regime and the scientific regime to deal with drug-impaired driving.
Honourable Member for Richmond Arthabaska. Mr. Speaker, the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police tabled a report this morning confirming that it is important and urgent to equip police forces so that they can take action in cases of drug-impaired driving before the government even thinks about legalizing marijuana. And I tabled a project, a bill this morning from the Senator Carignan, which will allow police forces to catch drug-impaired drivers and save lives. Do the Liberals intend to make Canadians safe and pass my bill before legalizing marijuana?
The Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, the government made it clear a number of months ago that we intend to have a new legal regime in place, that we will introduce legislation to that effect in the spring of this year. The work is proceeding along in that direction very well. We have the expert advice of the task force headed by the Honourable Anne McClellan, and we will also weigh very carefully the good advice from the Chiefs of Police.
The Honourable Member for Lethbridge.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals ran on a promise to build consultation and social license into their decision-making process when it had significant impact on local communities. However, it would appear that they're ignoring their own advice or promise with this regard in terms of drug injection sites. Just today in committee, the Liberal members voted down my amendment to Bill C-37, which asked the minister to give 45 days public notice before rendering a decision. Why are the Liberals afraid to give communities a voice in whether or not a drug injection site is in fact authorized for their community?
Honourable comment for Secretary of the Ministry of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our government is committed to protecting the health and safety of all Canadians, and the evidence is absolutely clear. In communities where they are needed and appropriate, harm reduction is an important part of a comprehensive approach to drug control. We put harm reduction back in as a pillar of our drugs and substances strategy, and this is why we are proposing to streamline the criteria and process for supporting community applications in Bill C-37. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Bourassa. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of International Development and Francophonie went to Haiti for the second time for an official visit. First, to observe the impact of Hurricane Matthew and Canadian assistance, but also to attend the inauguration of the 58th President of Haiti, His Honourable Excellency Jovenel Moise. Can the Minister update it on Canadian aid given to Haiti? The Honourable Minister of International Development. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague from Bourassa for his question. And indeed, I have just gotten back from Haiti to participate in the inauguration of the President and also to visit two projects supported by Canada, a hospital in Gonaive and the National Police Academy. Yesterday, I announced an investment of some $92 million over 5 years for 5 development projects for health, the health of women and children, and access to justice. Mr. Speaker, our government is committed to accompany the new government of Haiti, and I had the opportunity to discuss that with the new president.
For Niagara Falls.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, the Liberals introduced a bill that gives a break to human traffickers who commit multiple crimes. Now, this is unbelievable. The bill says that people convicted of human trafficking will not have to serve consecutive sentences when they commit additional unspeakable crimes against victims. Why is it that the Liberals are always so worried about giving a break to criminals? Why don't they start sticking up for victims for a change?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, our government is committed to combating human trafficking and better protecting victims who are among society's most vulnerable. Bill C-38 would bring into force the former private member's bill and 452 and also make it in compliance with the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. The bill would give law enforcement and prosecutors additional tools in terms of investigations and prosecutions to assist in combating this challenge.
The Honourable Member for Drummond. The Translation Bureau does invaluable work to promote our 2 official languages, but over 400 positions were cut over the past 4 years, with another 140 to come. Morale is low, and the Bureau is under constant pressure. Today, the Minister of Public Services and Procurement announced that 19 employees would be hired, but we still have a long way to go. Will the minister commit to stopping these cuts and to staff all positions left vacant by departing employees at the Translation Bureau?
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are committed to having a Translation Bureau that is productive, that produces quality. We are committed to making sure that we have the employees we need to carry out the work expected of them, but we are also committed as a party to official bilingualism, and we are taking extraordinary measures to make sure that that happens with this government, including putting in a different chief executive officer, a quality officer, and we are going to hire more employees. So we're going to do what should have been done years ago. We're going to fix the wrongs of the past with respect to official bilingualism.
Honourable Member for Vaughan Woodbridge.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Earlier this month, I had the chance to announce the start of construction of a new interregional transit terminal in the City of Vaughan. I know the Minister of Infrastructure and Communities has been advocating strongly for infrastructure investments that will grow the middle class and make a real difference day to day for families. Families in my riding appreciate investments in public transit. Can the Minister inform the House what he has been doing to ensure communities like Vaughan Woodbridge benefit from much-needed investments in public transit?
Honourable Minister.
I would like to thank the member for Vaughan Woodbridge for his hard work on behalf of his constituents. In December, we announced $46 million to support a new transit and carpool lot that will reduce congestion and get commuters home faster to spend time with their families. The York region will also receive additional funding under our long-term infrastructure plan, and the details will be announced very soon. Our government is proud to support investments in York region and across the country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Brantford-Brant.
Mr. Speaker, during the last election, the Prime Minister promised only modest deficits, but alas, that promise was broken. Since then, Liberal ministers have been looking for ways to raise taxes on hardworking Canadians to pay for the Prime Minister's $1 billion of broken promises. We now learn that the President of the Treasury Board is planning to raise user fees, just a tax by another name. Will the President of the Treasury Board tell Canadians which fees are going up, by how much, and when?
Honourable President of the Treasury Board.
Mr. Speaker, businesses, consumers, all Canadians benefit from government services. We want to strengthen the transparency and oversight of user fees that pay for some of these services. Everyone including big businesses, should pay their fair share so that middle-class Canadians and those working hard to join the middle class do not get stuck with the bill. We are going to treat all Canadians fairly, Mr. Speaker. That's what our government does.
The honourable member for Joliette. Order. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The reactions in Quebec concerning the so-called assistance to Bombardier are unanimous. Cheap, too little, too late, disappointment. Aside from the government and the members of the Conservative Party, no one in Quebec thinks that assistance that is 38 times lower than what was given to the auto industry is enough to support the flagship of Quebec's aeronautics sector. The Minister of Transport is a Quebec member, so why did he wait until Bombardier was stretched to the limit before giving support that everyone in Quebec considers grossly inadequate? The Honourable Minister of Economic Development. Mr. Speaker, I am proud to be part of a team with 40 Liberal members from Quebec who work for Quebecers.
Made sure that we put forward a proposition that would help Canadian families, that will create good quality jobs, that will benefit our communities, and that will strengthen the aerospace sector. This investment is about the future economy of Canada. It's about growth in jobs, Mr. Speaker, and this will benefit Quebec. 2/3 of the jobs will be in Quebec, Mr. Speaker, and this is exactly what we want to do. We want to create jobs, and we want to create growth.
The honourable member for Les Patriotes de Boucher-Verchères. Mr. Speaker, when it comes time to help aging sectors like the auto industry and the oil industry, Ottawa whips out its checkbook. But when it's time to help the cutting-edge economy in Quebec, cheapskate Ottawa would rather see our factories leave than giving Quebec its fair share. How can this government justify having granted assistance that is 38 times lower to Bombardier than for the auto industry? Is it because it's scared of English Canada? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, the aerospace sector is one of the most innovative sectors in Canada, and it contributes over 211,000 quality jobs to Canada. This announcement will ensure that 4,000 jobs are kept in Quebec and Canada, and another 3,000 jobs will be created. Bombardier is the largest contributor to R&D, and our government has pledged to grow our economy and the middle class, Mr. Speaker.
I realize the member for Skinnabolk Valley is rising on a point of order. I know the Minister for Democratic Institutions, I think, will also have a point of order. I'm going to ask them both to wait a moment while we have the Thursday question, if they don't mind. The Honourable Opposition House Leader.
Very much, Mr. Speaker. I just want to ask the Government House Leader, she could tell us what the business is of the House for this week and the rest of next week. Thank you.
Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we will be continuing today to debate the NDP Opposition Day motion. Tomorrow we will call Bill C-31, the Canada-Ukraine Free Trade Agreement, for debate at third reading. Monday we will resume third reading debate on Bill C-30, the CETA legislation.
Over the next few days, we shall prioritise Bill C-37, the Supervised Injection Site Act. Thursday, the 16th of February, will be an allotted day. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
For Skinnabolk Valley is rising on a point of order.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise on a point of order arising out of question period. I have the O'Brien and Boss citations, which I know you're familiar with, and I won't cite here today. Well, we saw in a previous incarnation the Minister for Democratic Institutions make disparaging remarks about the Electoral Reform Committee, which he later I believe the Prime Minister also apologized for. But today, in question period, in a response to a